Hello. Welcome. I'm gonna go off camera for a little bit and let's get right into it. Start channel. All right. So welcome. All right. So I started doing your reading a second ago, but then I was like, I should probably restart because I was kind of wasting time. And then we're like 5 minutes in, I like hadn't really said anything, so it's like, just restart it, bro. But all right. So yeah. All right. So you have your Sag moon like me, your Leo sun conjunct Mars. And you've got a really interesting chart because you got all these planets on angles. Um Otherwise you got the Jupiter square. Good step is what they're called. And yeah, so I guess we can start by talking about, and your North Node is in Taurus and 12. So, for you karmically, there's this sort of this need to let go of control. Um, as humans, we can sort of get, I guess, we can get used to the comforts that we have here in different incarnations. The little things that just add up. And just as the boy or girl who grows up in a nice community might have some resistance to to moving and to getting away from the friends that they grew up with, even if these friends might go against their greatest growth. There's just that level of comfort. So when I see all of this, I think that there's unresolved material from past lives, around, or a conflict in past lives, of how the truth, quote unquote truth, has been perceived, right? um and as a karmic astrologer, I can see things that very few people can see. And I'm just going to lay it to you right away that my big take from what I'm seeing so far is that there is some type of lie, whether it was a societal lie like the mainstream media is a complete lie today, um or something with the church, right? There's really like infinite um possibilities, but the essence is that something, something from your past incarnations, or whatever incarnation or incarnations you're dealing with the karma of now, the idea of truth was incorrect. And because of that, it kept you in a certain place where you were living your life according to what, just as anyone is in today's world as well, right? If I believe that if my truth is that spirituality is bullshit, astrology is bullshit, I'm not gonna be an astrologer. If I think money over everything, that's my motto, then I'm gonna be a fucking asshole. Nothing wrong with money, but well, there's some stuff wrong with money, but you get what I mean. Like what you believe to be true, what you believe to be the biggest truths, the guiding truths, is what guide you. So you see the link I'm creating here between your Sag moon and this karmic issue. So, one of the low sides of Scorpio, South Node. South Node represents the karmic tendency. can be, kind of clinging to, it can be, some, Scorpio is a sign of change, of death, rebirth, transformation. But a lot of Scorpio South nodes have had, some kind of traumatic past lives, right? I don't know how else to say it. Not all of them. I mean, that'd be kind of weird to think, but there's some level of, you know, of needing to really, jump in to, well, it's a balance, right? But it's really about, because it is coming from the sixth house with Saturn. That's what's really adding to it. So Saturn is very much about the material world, right? It's yeah, it's kind of it's kind of like the patriarch, it's like it's the ruler, the responsible one, the elder, the not the teacher is Jupiter, but um, you know, with Saturn South Node people, it adds like a Capricornian energy to that past life being, and the past life being ruled by Pluto, which is also in that sixth, is very interesting. So the way I kind of look at all of it is that because of some kind of lie of the true nature of what's important, you're trying to, in this life, you are a Sag moon, which is literally like the moon sign about truth, where you traveled, different places. You're in Sag moons, like me and you, we are all about, finding the real truth. Um, so, it takes us to far and wide places, and um, we have this endless curiosity, but with a very obvious goal, right? The goal being, to really, really find what we're looking for, to really, really find the answers. So, that ultimately is really, really what's important here. And going back to the past life stuff, um, there's really that need to dive deep, to really figure out what that, what that truth is, what that truth is, what that new truth is, essentially. Um, and then build your life, your career, whatever, based off of that. Now, with a Taurus North Node in the 12th, which I haven't seen many of those, the idea there is the North Node is the mountain never climbing past life. So you're trying to get to a point, to where you are really just, there's not conditioning. That's, you're not led by conditioning. You're not led by anything besides um this inner compass. It's a very, very spiritual placement. And the sixth house Saturn Scorpio, it's like moving away from, this real like societal power, and this value of wanting to kind of have this type of empowerment, and going between cycles of power and powerlessness in different lifetimes, and these situations getting one into potential ego wars, going between that. And really, Taurus at its highest energy North Node is about inner peace. It's about heaven on earth, heaven within here. So when I see people with that Taurus North Node in the 12th house, just the North Node there in general, but like, adding 12th house, but like it's someone who is here to really find peace in this lifetime. And Taurus ultimately, Black Moon Lilith is there too, so that could speak to the potential of going, of it being difficult for you on like a soul level, right? Um really go through those deep changes, right? Taurus can be very stubborn. Of course, you don't have any personal plans, and you are a Sag moon, which is about as open-minded, usually as open-minded as it can get. Of course, it cannot be. But however, the goal is to find peace within your body, to feel, to really feel like the world is a safe place. And just to have a very deep spiritual lifetime, developing this, this unique, I never tell people this is how you have to live spiritually. It's different for everyone, but, it's really like you're meant to find this real authentic kind of like spiritual lifestyle, that's just completely authentic to you. And that, that really, the requirement there is going within. The requirement is going within and finding that place, essentially, right? So hold on, I need to position my laptop. All right. So yeah, you have so many planets on angles. It's so interesting. So interesting. But the way that your big three, so that's kind of the karmic download. Well, there's a little bit more. So, the South Node ruler is Pluto. It's in the 6th house. Someone with a 6th house Pluto is really here to transform. They're really, really here to transform. They're here to be of service in like a way that's just like unbelievable, like they're really, really here to kind of take life by its horns and really be of service in their lifetimes. But one of the things, with that placement, so like the Saturn on the South Node, like I said, it adds kind of a Capricornian vibe to that South Node too, which I look at as like an over dependence on the masculine in past lives. So the 12th house is very feminine, it's very much about the collective unconscious. So you're really trying, and also just like that deep, like past lives, like it's very, very, very deep and endless. It's Pisces energy. So the more you can dive deep in those ways, the better. But yeah, it really is a lot of fundamental kind of like self reexamination with the Pluto. And it's really like through service, to others, you can really reexamine different aspects of yourself and find yourself in different ways linked to oneness, right? And there's a lot of humility that comes to that, and a lot of good karma that comes to that. So it's really like the question goes from, the Leo archetype, 5th house, of how can I be special, to how can I be useful. So I think that the fact that, Pluto's there, it's really with the vertex there too in Scorpio, and then having Chiron rising, I think you're a healer. I don't know if your work is a healer in some way, but there's a lot more to it. So last thing I'll say, North Node is ruled by Venus, which is in the 1st house. So in Gemini, that's giving clues. You could be someone who, something like mystical writing, or, creating beauty of some sort through art, bringing beauty to the world in some way. Beauty just factoring in to your life is very important, and very paramount for you. So yeah, that's kind of like the Gemini Venus. So that's what, a lot of like kind of the karmic stuff. But on the flip side, when we look at the personal planets, when we look at the real important energy, we see, okay, so this person, their soul needs to learn, right? Their soul is here to expand, to learn, and so forth. So how does one do that? Well, and this is how I, uniquely look at astrology. Like I don't really, I taught myself everything. So I have my own ways, but they seem to work. You know, I look at I like to look at the karmic stuff and then wonder, okay, so this is what the karma is saying. So now let's connect that to what the personal plans, which are the more conscious part, like my Mars function, your Venus function, your moon function, all that stuff's like, yeah. So with your moon, which I consider the most important, moon and sun, but I give moon a little edge because it represents what we need, while the sun is more, what we want, or not what we want, like, who we are and whatnot. I definitely think that the moon and Sag, as I said, that's my moon placements. I know it quite well. Um, it's really about that great, it's that emotional need for finding that truth, that I've been talking about, that's been kind of lacking, right, in past life. Um, when truth is not found, and when there's been karmic pushbacks, and the Jupiter square could relate to, like I said, like, imagine like you grew up and you were lied to about what mattered, about what mattered, like so many are being today. Sorry, I thought my cat jumped. Mika, come here. Get inside. Mika, get inside. Mika, inside. Okay, whatever. Yeah, so like so many people are lied to today. Mainstream media, what you learn in school is all correct, blah 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 blah. So you know, I believe that these people are gonna have kind of warped ideas of what matters. They believe that the esoteric, the metaphysical value of what you're doing doesn't matter. It's just the physical. Let me get my mic going. Test, test, test. Mika. There's no way she's going in the rain. Okay, microphone. No, microphone. Be here. Okay. Test. Test, 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 test. It's too loud. Test, 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 test. Okay. I just want you to check one thing. Sorry. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, that's so much better. Cool. Okay, so anyways, yeah. So, being a Sag moon, you're pushed in this lifetime. Sorry, I think my cat. You gotta get inside. Get inside. You can't see me outside. Go with me. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah. So being a Sag moon, it just makes perfect sense, right? It's like you're giving that moon sign because that's the moon sign of philosophy of truth, of going out in the world, going to different cultures, being so curious, meeting different teachers with different philosophies. It's really about truth. And then you take that truth and you know, use that for your dharma. And you have this amazing Jupiter on the midheaven, which is such a great placement for career. Um, Career slash just like your, lots of luck when you're really, really going your destined way. Um, but remember, like a big part of your destiny is to move away from the material world, um, but not completely. Because Taurus North Node, there's still a level of that, but it's that balance between material and spiritual, right? So, but like I think with Taurus, a big thing is the somatic aspect of it, right? Um, being embodied, like doing things like yoga would be super, super, super good. And just learning to like overcome times where, you know, where there's a risk to be taken, but you don't take the risk. That's massive. Um, and that's with the Black Moon Lilith energy, right? So yeah, the so the moon being um in the seventh house is interesting, and it doesn't have any difficult aspects. So it has a really good aspect. It's trying the sun. So I don't say this anymore because I've seen it kind of play out in different ways. Um, but a lot of the times when you see sun trying moon, it represents a good relationship. Oh, I was waiting for Mike. I'm sorry. Um, so a lot of times when you see sun, trine, moon, it represents a good relationship. Even though I don't like to say this all the time because I've seen it not work out. But oftentimes it represents a good relationship, or at least some overlap, some real overlap in terms of the worldview of the two parents. So it doesn't always mean that they had like a great relationship. And honestly, I had a client recently who had that sunshine moon, but her parents were divorced and it wasn't good. So I do want to say that and say that it's not with this stuff, it's not a direct science, but so many times I've had clients where um I've said that with this, with the square that they're divorced or that they have just very different um, kind of ways of seeing life. But yeah, with the trine, it just means that your sun, your moon are headed in two very similar directions, right? You're here to really experience a different form of living. And with Leo, that makes me think, based on the karmic stuff we saw, that the soul has not experienced has, because of the potential for a Saturn South node to be overly serious, and like really successful, really like with everything related to responsibilities and just being a very successful person and whatever that meant at that in that society at that time. There's still that level of you know of like a Leo sun. You're a Leo sun because you're here to really um you know find your creative side. So, and you're a Sag Moon because you're here to transform your idea of truth, which will go against your Jupiter, which is Jupiter rules, um, your moon, right? Jupiter rules your moon and it squares your nodes. So, and then the things that square your nodes, the planets that square your nodes are skip steps. So it's literally saying that you have your moon sign so you can overcome I don't know exactly how you were lied to, that your or whatever skewed your idea of truth, but you're here to find, not like, I don't want to say find God because that there's just a weird connotation with that, but here to find Esma. Stop. I'm gonna get locked up in my room, Esme. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. You can come help me, Esme. Help me with my reading. Esme, come help me. Okay, go outside. But yeah, so that's kind of that energy. Now there's so much going on in your chart that's so interesting. The Mars, with the sun means that there'll be a lot of, and it's in the third house. So the third house sun is speaking to this theme even more, this theme of like the need to really, really have lots of curiosity. And it's actually speaking to like how on your Sag moon, right? That is the higher mind that represents the north, your not north node, your moon. It's really, really in your third house sun and third house Mars that you have this it gives you this real curiosity to go out and do like almost the groundwork. In life, to learn, you have to do the little things. You have to go out and find the information. Being two Sagittarius, so Gemini and Sagittarius, that's an axis. It means they're opposite signs that you learn a lot if you have an axis activated in your chart. And you don't really have to worry about how this is all making sense. Just know it is. But basically, when you have an axis activated, you know that is a karmic theme, like really getting the balance of that opposition solid, right? So that one right there, it's the part of you that's the journalist that goes and does the groundwork to not just believe any random thing you hear, right? Because that's sometimes people who are too saggy, that's the mistake they make, right? And then people are too Gemini, they will allow themselves to just to stride away from the deep and the conceptualizations of their ideas, like the coming together of their ideas. So it's really about finding the balance between those two. And yeah, having your whatever house your son's in is like the major arena of life. So I think that is really showing up as this theme of this life being so much about discovery and curiosity for you. Being the person who does the journalist, like Gemini and work, the lower mind as they call it, but then also doesn't just stay there like your South Node in Gemini, but connects it to higher concepts and makes these links and isn't so all over the place like jack of all trades, master of none. Definitely, that's fine when you're still trying to figure out what it is you want to really, really master in, but to be able to really lock into one or a few main areas of expertise. So besides that, yeah, the Mars in the third house too gives like that's and also like Sun in the third, Mars in the third, that's very good for intelligence. Mercury in the third, very, very good for intelligence. All in Leo, so you'll be very, very proud and like learning also for you, for the person with these types of placements. It's like learning is very fun, like they really take joy in learning, teaching themselves. Learning is like this journey, and I think that's the best way to it. So Sag moons, they a lot of times they're natural teachers, so a lot of times they like to teach themselves stuff. And the fact that it falls in the seventh is speaking to like this real emotional, this real emphasis on relationships, but it's it's not necessarily I spoke on the piece about service, because it'd be success Placidus, but really like the importance of really, really like a desire to have relationships that really, because Sagittarius rules the seventh, um, to have the relationships really, really bring the person, it could, like I said, it could, it could be, relationships that involve people from different countries, or from different, or from just like very, very different cultural backgrounds, or just philosophical backgrounds, um, or just like an adventure buddy, something like that. It's important to have someone who you really feel like you can expand with. So someone who's not closed-minded. It's not like they have to be spiritual. I know it's hard, you know, like I can't assume that anyone is heterosexual, because I've been having some bi and lesbian clients lately. But I know for those who are straight, it's hard, it's hard to find good spiritual men in today's world. So I always say it's like, as long as the guy is real and authentic and down for you for who you are, and at least not shitting on, it's okay to disagree, but as long as they're not just dissing what you're doing and what you're learning. Because ultimately, like with your North Node and Sag, it's of the utmost importance to be with someone who isn't going to shut down you on your learning journey, because learning in itself takes on so many different routes, excuse me. Like, you know especially if you're open-minded, you might spend time you know taking in content, or reading different stuff, or whatever, that you don't even agree with, because it's important to understand like the opposing views of things. So just someone who kind of has like at least a similar philosophy around similar things. And if there's differences, then there's differences, but respect is needed, and good communication, of course. So yeah, then in your seventh house, it's very interesting because you have Uranus round the descendant. So already Sag moons in relationships, they need tons of space. They really, they cannot, like, the second Sag moons feel like they like to go with the flow. They like adventure, like, so in their life. So it's very independent, very future oriented too, as a moon sign. Another thing about Sag moons is that they tend to always see the positive side in things, and they're very good at creating meaning. So there can be like a very tough situation, but a Sag moon can be like, okay, like I see why this makes sense. I see why this happened, right? But you know, sometimes they're just that, like, that's like the one bad thing. Even though Sag moon is my favorite moon sign, I know it's my moon sign, but I really, really love Sag moon people. Sometimes they need to allow themselves to feel like the trauma, when it is, and not just like, sometimes that's one thing I've seen, is that they can be a little bit too airy, and too optimistic, to where they're like allowing, something bad happens that they should be feeling like the difficult energy about, but they might say something like, oh yeah, it's all part of the journey, which is fine, which is good. It's good to be able to be positive. It's good to be future oriented, not cling on to the past. That's one of the gifts of Sag moon. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's times when it's a little bit too much. There's times when you're meant, on an emotional level, emotional is energy that needs to be transformed. There's definitely times that, yeah, you're supposed to feel that stuff. So Sagittarians sometimes don't do that too well. But yeah, Sagittarians just want to have fun. They need fun partners. They need partners who are willing to expand with them. And closed-mindedness is the least attractive thing for a Sagittarian. But with Uranus on the descendant, they are, you know, they dream of a relationship that, so there can be an interesting energy here, right? But I definitely think that you are someone who needs, like I said, a ton of freedom, but also with the North Node in Taurus, so that a ton of freedom, you know, in Taurus 12th house, a level of real groundedness and consistency. And your Juno is in Libra, so that speaks to, like, I had a feeling it was there. That speaks to, you know, really needing that balance and that real beauty in relationships, you know, that real, like, that real fairness, right? That real fair energy. Um, so yeah, relationships that are like one-sided or that are power struggles, that's no good. I mean, it's no good for anyone, but like, yeah, Juno represents like your ideal partner, you know what I mean? So, um, you know, in that case, it makes sense that it makes sense that Libra, fifth house, it would be someone who, you know, that's the house of Leo. So someone who can laugh, who can have a good time. Um, but then also to where, you know, there's not so much fighting, um, and just things like that, of that nature. Um, yeah, yeah. So with that aside, yeah, like the Uranus descendant, it's so interesting because they want a very unconventional relationship filled with freedom. You know, they tend to attract and be attracted to like very ingenious types of people who are eccentric and a good, you know, or eccentric or just very individualistic. Um, they can feel very, very trapped in relationships that, you know, do not meet that. So yeah, it's really like, I just cannot see how, you know, especially, but then you have an unaspected Venus, so that's interesting. It's very interesting. Actually, no, it's sextiles Mercury, but that's it. But you know, it's not, it's barely aspected. And you know, that, like, and then it's in Gemini too. So that is very interesting because Venus in Gemini, first house, right? So first of all, first house Venuses are very, very, you know, they tend to be very beautiful, very, have like a very nice aura. Um, and they're just able to, you know, like really like beauty and just like, and just you know, the good things in life, the more like the very, very feminine. It gives like a very, very kind of passive, but because Gemini rising, you know, it's very talkative. Also, a really cool thing about Gemini rising is Gemini risings tend to stay looking young. Of course, you have to take care of yourself. But yeah, because it's ruled, because it makes you ruled by Mercury. You know, Mercury rules youth. So yeah, Gemini risings tend to stay looking young for a long time. But the fact that Chiron's rising, that's a difficult placement. Um, it can give one the appearance, especially when young, of like looking like they're hurt. You know, looking like they're kind of like sad. It could also just speak to early experiences, you know, that were difficult. Not necessarily like a traumatic, you know, but like, you know, it's your ascendant, so it really makes you appear, you know, you're someone who just your you know, how you are, your energy with Venus and Chiron, right? So it's not just Chiron. There's that real beauty, but that real groundness, and someone who can really put other people at ease. But that, you know, there could be some wound. So okay, I'll talk about the wound in a sec. But you know, like kind of with Venus as on like the love thing, love topic. Venus and Gemini, it's known for getting bored, right? It's known for getting bored if things, you know, if partners do not, meet them on that real intellectual level. So yeah, that's key stuff there. But one thing I've noticed about Venus and Geminis too, they love to read. They love anything writing, anything that involves like media. And Gemini rising just love to talk. So even I just think that it adds even more of that Gemini energy, Gemini Sagittarius like access importance to your incarnation, right? Going out and doing because sometimes people can like talk about Gemini as being like too surface level, but then when you have it mixed with Sag, it's literally the journalist or researcher that goes and does gets all the data and then turns it into a research paper through the conclusions. That's the Sag part. So but yeah, Gemini risings, like they'll I don't know, like I feel like a lot of the ones I know, they care about social media. Not everyone, but they just care about staying current, staying young. They just stay young on not just the physical level, it's like a mental thing. And when you have Leo is literally like Leos stay young, like for Leo moon, Leo sun, like they tend, especially Leo moon, they tend to just like have this like youthful energy throughout life. So it's really nice. Really, really nice. But yeah, so I think that the love stuff is very understood, that it's something unconventional. It's something that you're able to be your inner child, but still has that solidity and that fairness, and a relationship where where there's just lots of beauty and lots of romance, but yeah, um like loving, like enjoying, like lots of compliments, and a partner who is able to really see you um in all levels, not all levels, in all versions of yourself, and really really love every single one, not be like super critical. And then as a north node in Taurus, like I said, like you are here, like you've had some rough, like you're here ultimately to really be at peace with yourself on a deep level. Like that's what it is, right? um so there's a level of rest that you need to give yourself. I'm not saying rest your whole life, like anything like that, like, but I'm saying that, like, you know you can feel it in your soul when you have a south node in Scorpio. Like I have south node, I have Pluto, I don't have what you have, but I have something that's kind of similar. And sometimes you just have to like really feel into your energy, because your energy can just like, there can be past life trauma that can really affect you. And it can be difficult, right? Because you can feel like I don't have the answers of how this, in this lifetime, like I don't have like the link to like, why I am the way I am, why I feel the way I feel. It doesn't link up with anything, but you just have to imagine in past lives just difficult energy. So yeah. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, so with the Mercury in the third house, like that's nice. You like to talk. I would be, I wouldn't imagine that you're someone who's shy. Um, you also have ascendant trine Mercury, so that's very good for popularity, good for looks, good for um for the physical body as well. So is the Venus there. Chiron on the ascendant is a little bit interesting. So like I said, I've already kind of gone into it actually. Like it does create the healer. Um, but you have to kind of like a lot of people I know with this, like they got bullied, growing up sometimes. And because it's in Gemini, oftentimes it relates to someone who, may have had very different views of what's important in life, or not what's important in life, like very different, like kind of like just views in general, like when they're growing up, or like whatever they liked, whatever they found interesting may have been, um, a little bit different than the mainstream. So, it can definitely cause some conflict. Um, and what happens with most of my Gemini chirons is that at some point in their journey, their life journey, they sort of internalize the message that they are not, um, intelligent enough, or like, something with their thought process is off. And that's obviously a very difficult thing to believe. So, it's this whole journey around, coming to terms with one's own intelligence, and realizing that a lot of times they were just ahead of their time. They just had ideas that were just ahead of others. But it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing. So, and a lot of times it comes from the parents, or parents, or early, or siblings, or early schooling environment. You know, and what I've noticed is a lot of people who have this, they really knew more than their parents. So yeah, it's definitely kind of a gift. It's definitely a gift, but it can start off by feeling like a little bit of a curse, I guess. And this is shown by Mercury in Leo square Saturn. So Mercury square Saturn, actually, on that shy note, that's actually an aspect. I didn't see that before when I said the shy statement. That is an aspect that actually would make one doubt, kind of like how I just said, their own intelligence, or their own, like it can make one, a lot of times early on, they get critiqued a lot by parents, or just, in some way, but like they just don't feel secure in their speaking. And because you have a stationed, right, it's not retrograde, but stationed, um Mercury, there can be an element of like a very different way, more right-brained way of thinking, right? Which, you know isn't always easy. So yeah, just finding like what works for you is really, really important. um so when we look at career stuff, the midheaven up here, so you have like some of the best energy possible for career. So Jupiter in Aquarius, first of all, makes you very humanitarian. Midheaven in Aquarius, it makes you want to really do something like big picture, that really elevates humanity, that really elevates other people. Working for causes that you really believe in, things like that. But then, so Jupiter right on the midheaven is one of the luckiest places you can have Jupiter, and it also makes it so if you live close to where you were born, um, you know, well, several things could happen if you still live close to where you're born in terms of longitude, or whatever the one that's east to west is. I literally can never remember. It is the weirdest thing. I have a very good memory, but I just have this weird mental block about longitude and latitude. It is so fucking weird. Anyways, you know, uh, the main astrocartography. So yeah, it's interesting because like if you'd be right on your Chiron line, ascendant line, Jupiter MC line, if you live there or close to there. And then your Uranus ascendant. So it's like one like maybe relationships would be kind of very up and down, but then your career would be really, really good. Dharma, career, big picture stuff, um, big picture outer world stuff. And then, but then the Chiron, the ascendant, I don't know, getting away from home, like you can do that reading if you're ever interested. It's a live one, so it's not, well, it's live or recorded, whatever. But yeah, like it's interesting. Those three lines. But yeah, I'd have to look more into it to really know. But yeah, I think there'd be like one really, really good line and one really good for career, relationships, meh. And then the Chiron ascendant line is not that fun actually, because it kind of just, yeah, it kind of just can make kind of like healing and just kind of make one have like kind of like a sad face. That's kind of how it is with Chiron risings in general, you know. Like I've heard them describe it as like yeah, just having a yeah, a sad, like almost like a sad face growing up, and then it can just be difficult for like, you know, relationships um and friends and stuff like that. So yeah, yeah. Um, Anyways, yeah, some really great intuitive gifts. Eighth house, Neptune is very interesting, but that's not what I was talking about. I was finishing with the Mercury square Saturn. So, you know, with that one, ultimately, it's just like it takes someone a great deal of
Yeah, so it takes someone a great deal of, you know, just like trial and error, like trying lots of things, like really, really, really trying to get out of you know, certain thought processes and ways of relating to the world. It takes them that um, you know, to really release themselves from the hold of that aspect, right? Hey, Mika. And also I think with you know, like it can make someone also become, you know, pretty stuck to different ideas, and it can make it like difficult to change one's mind. And that kind of goes to the Black Moon Lilith and Taurus. Mika, kiss me. Good girl. Um, and yeah, it can just make it like difficult to like really communicate your thoughts to others, to open up to others, stuff like that, even as a Leo Mercury. So the more you just throw yourself in and really just like take risks in that area, and of course you've been past your Saturn return, so a lot of this aspect it's probably worked through for the most part. But yeah, you know, and because it's linked to your, you know, to your wait, hold up. Wait. There's no way. Okay, never mind. I was like tripping for a second. I was like, what? It did not show me that, but no, I wouldn't count that one. But what about South Node? Because yeah, the South Node's also, the nodes are also square the midheaven in IC, which is interesting because to me that's basically saying that until you kind of get past any like fear of change, any fear of evolution, um, and really finding that groundness and that and overcoming that like I think I got a hair all over my face distrust for change. It can have like an effect on you fully like leaning into that Jupiter midheaven of just like having so much luck and so many like good connections and so much expansion, so much like, you know, when you're going in that, you know, most likely like, you know, Jupiter in midheaven is very humanitarian, right? I want to do something that matters to the world. So when you're heading that direction, oh my God, and with the, you know, Chiron on the ascendant, people like that, they're so good at putting other people at ease, you know? Um, And you have Chiron trine Jupiter too, so that's nice for that. But and then you also have Mercury trine Neptune, which makes you really, really good, great imagination, amazing ability to really have a very compassionate mind, and kind of to really like put people at ease, and find amazing people, to really see everyone's potential around you. And that's on, every level. But like ultimately your quest is to see yourself and feel yourself as a part of the greater whole, right? So, it's a very spiritual North Node task. Um, so yeah, I mean, in essence, yeah, overcoming distrust of change, right? Takes and just healing, so until that really deep healing, and just like being able to kind of surrender, like that's the key word, surrender different aspects of the self, like that is the game changer. With the vertex in the sixth house too, with best in the sixth house all in Scorpio, I would not be surprised if you were like a therapist or a psychologist, something like that. All right. So yeah, and Neptune eighth house, as I was saying, like that is just such a beautiful place of your North Node journey, because yeah, you just feel the undercurrents of all that is. And it makes it, but like you can also like be really, really in tune with the suffering. Um, but really someone with an eighth house Neptune, they feel very um, they can really kind of transcend daily life through like their metaphysical pursuits, right? And they really, yeah, they're just very good at feeling the undercurrents and emotional undercurrents in different situations. So yeah, but on the career stuff, you have part of fortune and Jupiter with the midheaven. So, you're at your flow state and it's in the ninth house. So, the career should, like, Dharma slash career, which are different things, um, there could be a change. Aquarius midheaven definitely could, go through a career change, at some point. There could be like, phase one, phase two, phase three, or something like that. And, it can make someone just very ingenious, within their own, chosen profession, and they want to really, choose like a very unconventional career path, something that, yeah, helps humanity. Jupiter with midheaven, and then part of fortune there too is like, when you're like, like it makes one like, it's such a good karma aspect, right? Um, but it's usually quite good for parents, like early on. Like this is actually a pretty good one. Like usually people with this, like um, you know, they usually had a pretty a lot of people I see with this one, not all of them had like a powerful father, powerful family or something like that. But recently it hasn't been the case. Like at first it was like every single one, but a lot of times like the parents, one or both parents are considered like kind of high character and maybe have like a prominent position in society. And because of that, they kind of encourage your talents, and give you like, people with this tend to have very many options in life. Um, and then it's very good for like, wanting to travel the world and wanting, with your Sag moon, like really wanting to study, and learn a lot. Um, and usually there's lots of recognition for your talents. Um, it's good for marriage, if that's what you want. There's usually like a good marriage partner that comes, someone who can like really, support and enhance your life goals. And yeah, it just creates a blessed life. It's one of the best things you can have in your chart. When one door closes, another one opens, just like that, with ease. And you know, it's just like the only thing is that there's that need to learn, um restraint sometimes, because you have Jupiter opposite Sun, so sometimes there can be like too much, like you have to watch it. Yeah, always like making sure to kind of you know, you know, what is it? Cross your T's and dot your I's. Like really like look before you leap. So yeah, it's really just great fortune. Yeah, and then the part of fortune there also just means that like when you are, you know, growing on all those levels, the Sagittarian levels of traveling physically, traveling metaphorically, that's when you're your best and that's your flow state. And when you're really helping humanity, and in your career that's helping you learn about the world, that's really the best. And then a Leo Mars is a great placement because like the sun, you have the sun in Leo, so that's like where the sun loves to be the most in its dignity. And Mars third house, it's someone who can really state their thoughts very strongly. They can really make a massive impact on their surroundings. Sometimes there's clashes with siblings, but sun third house also can indicate a lot. And Mercury there, like lots of the siblings being a very important part if you have siblings in your life, a really important part of your life, or like the early kind of schooling environment, or early schooling, or like the early part of life being really important, or like where you grew up, the early environment. So yeah, one thing with Mars and Leo, it's like there's a huge need to express your personal creativity. That's not the conditioned creativity, of like what you're supposed to make, like you're making the poem. It's not supposed to be any way. It's just how you authentically make it. And yeah, it's usually very good for assertiveness, very good for confidence. But um, you lack any earth. So this is how I tend to know if someone is an old soul, an advanced soul, um, if they have a north node that isn't supported at all. So let me explain. Your north node is in Earth, in Taurus, right? There's no planets in Taurus. There's no personal planets in Virgo, and there's no personal planets in Capricorn. Yeah, there's Neptune, but that doesn't really matter. So you have to find Earth, which is consistency, right? And you also, yeah, you also lack any water. So you have a completely masculine chart, right? So getting in touch with your emotions could be difficult, although not always. Um, it's just really, like I said earlier, it's really important to feel your emotions, even if that means watching a movie that makes you cry. Um, if you feel out of touch with them, it's important to be there. And that's why being of service can be such a valuable thing because it connects you to that water. I don't like to think that people who lack water are less compassionate. I just think sometimes, they can be a little bit out of touch with emotions, but then I feel like fire is very sensitive. So I don't really make those claims. I just think when you lack water, taking baths, being by water, drinking a lot of water is really, really good. I know it sounds like very obvious things you can do, but they actually work. And then it goes the same thing with lacking earth, you know, gardening, going on hikes, stuff like that. Um, so it was over here. So yeah, then when it comes to yeah, with earth also, it's like the need to push yourself to create um strong like routines, like they hit your physical. So if it's like working out, mental, and that's with the north node in earth, you're being pushed to do that, but it might not come natural, is what I'm saying. Where's my charger? So, and then when you have a lot of fire like you do, um you just have to watch out for the whole give and take in relationships. Sometimes people with a lot of fire, I'm not saying this is you at all, but sometimes they don't realize like the impact they have on people who are more like sensitive, or more, who don't have that fire, and sometimes they can make people very jealous. So just two things. Um, and yeah, like you know, I just feel like you're probably very, very social. Like you have this amazing ability to put people at ease. Um, Oh, I didn't see you have Sun square Pluto. How did I not see that till now? And Mars square Pluto. Wow. Okay, so let's get into that. So Mars square Pluto, it's less than 1 degree. This is maybe the most volcanic aspect you need to work out. I don't care what you say. You need to have a super solid way to get all this volcanic fire out, or else it can come to a tipping point and explode. Um, some people with Mars square Pluto, it's like literally a volcano, right? Um, they feel so intensely, and sometimes there can be like it can be difficult to control their emotions. It can be very linked to anger. So that's when you look at Taurus, it's that need to find peace. And also one thing that Mars square Pluto is scary is that it can attract or give violence. So they're like there's a creative outlet or a physical outlet or both is so important. So meditation, right? Because like I always say, like say there's stimulus, right? Most people look on Twitter if you want to see. Most people it's like stimulus or like activating triggering event. Boom, they get it. No neutral mind, no spaciousness within themselves. That's why the mindfulness is so important. And then they just respond. And then boom. And it's just like robotics. So it's like finding a way to be able to like, and if you've done this, amazing. To be able to like take that and like sit on it for a little bit. Not react, react, right? So learning to back off. Um, because lacking the water, what can happen with that is that you can say things or do things that like just destroy people. And you might not realize how much it does that. But you do have that eighth house Neptune, which definitely helps you out about feeling the undercurrent. That's I can't stress that enough. Um, yeah, and then like the Pluto square sun, I mean that's just like the ultimate. So now we can talk about the parents. Sun square Pluto, a lot of times it could speak of the father usually. And it can basically have created some type of power struggle. Perhaps a parent that was overly controlling or obsessive, or there's some type of trauma there. Um, and yeah, it can just create like a very like explosive and unpredictable person who has issues controlling their emotions, right? Um, so this is a huge part of the chart. It does create someone who, but the thing is that, who's really, really good at like rising the occasion and definitely like, um, you know, accomplishing their goals. But, there is a need for, for balance and for learning to compromise, because what can happen, and surrender, there's people with this, sometimes like they just do not have that. Um, and this is the old, like, this with Pluto square moon, like these are the ultimate ones that are adding a scorpionic vibe to people, and they're making that person, they force you to transform or regenerate, um with different things that happen in your life, right? That force change, and the more you push it away, the more you don't surrender, the more it gets bad. And some people who don't actually like ever do that, they become like the most like power hungry types of people. um so yeah. And a lot of times it could have been feeling like completely disempowered early on in life. um so yeah. And you'll feel like if people who have this, who like do not go towards take those opportunities for growth, there could be like abandonment issues, all kinds of things, right? Um, because you'll feel very catalyzed to break down old barriers and restrictions. Um, People who don't do that, they just feel very, very stuck and very frustrated. And that's when some of that that Mars square Pluto anger can come out. Um, so yeah. It's like, yeah, it's really like the image of a snake shedding its skin. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And people who have that, they tend to transform. They not. I mean, I know a guy I grew up with, who, or I went to high school with, who like definitely. I mean, I guess I'm not really that close with him, but I did his chart, and I was so surprised to see that. And I don't think that he did do that. So I think it can lead to narcissism. I'm not saying you have that. I'm saying that it can lead to those types of kind of like energies, um, if there's that unwillingness to kind of let go, and allow the change to come. Yeah, vested conjunct Pluto is super interesting in Scorpio, because I think and with the vertex, I think that your work can be deep, deep, deep underneath the surface and really change people. And I think the fact that you do lack the water can make you a really good, it can definitely make you a good healer, in the sense that like sometimes people who have too much water, like they're very compassionate, very, very empathetic, all that, but it's like, they can just get triggered by so much so easily. So, and it's like the energy can be so powerful that they just cannot proceed. So it can be an advantage. Seventh house Uranus by itself, you'd be someone who, like I said, wants unconventional and relationships with lots of freedom within them. And you want to learn a lot about your own individuality within relationship. So yeah. And, oh yeah, one thing about Chiron, the first house too. I'm just like adding in things as I remember them. A lot of people, like, it's like every time they really like express like their true self, they feel like early on, especially, they felt like shut down. So then they just decide to shut up. That's especially with the Saturn square Mercury, and the fact that's in Gemini. But yeah, Chiron rising, it's like, yeah, that deep inclination to really help other people, right? Discover their true potential after you go through the trials and tribulations to discover your true potential, right? Um, you going into your emotional, physical wounds, that transforms all of that. So any real wounding you have had in your life, like there is a purpose to it. Yeah. So besides that, I think that you'd be someone who like is pretty generous when it comes to like possessions and even money. Um, like I think you'd be a good gift giver. And them serious in Cancer, that the nurturing is very linked to how your nurturing was with your mother. Um, if there was a close relationship with her, then that's really, really good for your nurturing as like a mother figure and partner and friend and all that. But if not, it can make one a little bit more avoidant of close relationships. And even like form. Esmond, stop, Esmond, stop biting wires, stop. So it can make you like yeah, like it can create like kind of codependency potentially also, but it's not that strong. I don't see like the only codependency potential I see is that seventh house moon, but then there's so much that like I need space in relationships, so I would not predict that. I mean, there are a few things that could speak to that, but not much. Yeah, even like Vesta in the sticks, like there's that commitment to serving other people. Um, and just like Vesta and Scorpio are so dedicated to their work. Um, so yeah. And yeah, Palace and Gemini just really good at grasping new ideas and concepts. Um, good writer, good speaker. It's really good. Yeah, it's great. And then so yeah, just the fact that your sun and your moon are in the first, or your ascendant and your moon, your Venus in the moon, or in first and seventh. It's just that real duality between compromise and complete independence, and trying to find that middle ground. But really, it comes down to like a certain type of relationship. truly working for you, you know? But there's definitely relationships that can, you'll know the ones that don't feel right. You very well could be married right now. I'm just calling it how I see it. All right, let's see what's going on with any of these bad boys. So I don't know what Mintanka is. It's one of the things my Moon Girl readings Haley talks about. She says that if you have planets at around 22 Gemini, which you have your Venus at 23, you are Mintanka, Mintaka. I think she has a post about that. So you can check that out. But I don't know shit about it, to be honest. Capella conjunct Venus is so good for money. It's a well star to have on your Venus is awesome. Hecate is conjunct your sun. That is a witch asteroid. So you are a witch. And that's related to potions and all kinds of stuff. Now, I see here, I'm not going to make a prediction. I see two potential indications for abuse. So I'm not going to say anything because I don't like to predict those things. But yeah, Nessus, where it is. Hold on. And then the Mars square Pluto, it's not like it always is like related to abuse, but it can have that. It can be about that. Um, but it's not like a sure thing at all. So you have Lilith, the asteroid. So you have two of the three witch asteroids so far on important points. So Lilith is another witch asteroid and relates to, it's really like the woman who doesn't take shit, in the man world of it. It's like kind of like associated with feminism in the sense like that woman who just doesn't put up with like the patriarchy's bullshit, a very strong, the way I see it on like a more psychological level is that very, very strong-willed woman um, who cares a lot about causes and will do anything to defend them. What is that? Okay. Ooh, ooh. So you have this is dope. Okay, that's really cool. So there's a asteroid called Urania, and this is the asteroid of astrology. So you have two of the witch ones, and then you have Urania on your midheaven, which relates to career. So you could be meant to be an astrologer. I'm not just saying that. A witch, like something in this realm. I don't see that so often. Um, so yeah, that's really cool. And if you're ever interested in taking classes, I do one-on-one. I'm still doing it. I think I have room for maybe, yeah, for like one more person. I have like packages that are probably the best deal ever for, what you're getting. Um, yeah, it's pretty magical stuff in one-on-one, no group. So yeah. Um, okay, so we're looking at Okay, yeah. Yeah, so like literally like midheaven, yeah. So like that's literally like what it's it has to do with astrology, any study of the sky, you know. So yeah, that's very interesting. I want to see if I can find anything about this. So yeah, you have a difficult one with Serpentis and Saturn. So sometimes people have that, like they can sometimes have like you know like issues with substances um and with different mental health stuff. So, but it's not one that I know so much about, and I want to see the orb point 34. So it's not smack on that, so that's good. But that's one of the more difficult ones. To have Saturn there is not the best, but it's not huge, huge, huge. And then what's this one? Yeah. So then there's this other point. So basically, it's kind of telling me that, there's that potential for the lowest vibe of Aquarius to come out. Like it's kind of like Black Moon Lilith, it's the dark moon Wilmoth, I forget like Wilmoth. And having it right in your midheaven is interesting. I just think that it's just really important to have a lot of integrity in career. Not saying that you wouldn't or that you don't, but you there's just a lot of positive karma and positive forces pushing you in that direction. So it's just important to proceed in that way. So yeah, that is everything. I hope you enjoyed. So oh wait. Uh, what is the orb for Alpha 2.4? 2.20, I mean. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So that's it. So yeah, like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, there's one thing I need to look at actually. So 13, 12. It has to be 12 here. Yeah, that doesn't really. Well, that is 25, 23. What just happened? My headphones just turned off. It's working now. Test, 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 test. Okay, that was weird. Yeah. So I'm just looking for aspect patterns, but yeah, I thought I may have seen a mystic rectangle, but no, it's a little off. So, anyways, yeah, that's everything. Let me know. So, like I think I said, most people what they do that I think you already have the follow up. So, don't you? I should look actually for a second. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have both. So most people, what they do is they they buy the reading and the follow-up together, and then if they like the reading, most people do, they decide to do not just the follow-up, which is the hour, they decide to do that plus the current astrology. So and it's not like a long wait, like, I mean, you just take as long as you want with the reading. Some people have to really go through. I really like when people take notes and take it very seriously, because it is a very serious thing, and you want to get the maximum out of it. So they get the full maximum out of, like, me, is to not only do the natal you get done once, it never changes your whole life. It's like it's the hand you were dealt at birth. But then there's current astrology. It's always changing, right? It's always changing. So yeah, it's just it's like a long reading, and it's first hour follow up, all going over your lived experience. You already have it, like I said, with your lived experience compared to the chart. And then after that, we move seamlessly into the current astrology. I go into everything, everything, the transits, of course, the solar return chart you have for this year, your progress chart, your solar arc, right? It's a little bit different. The houses that the outer planets, just the planets are moving in for you, the progressed moon phase, which is super interesting, and just a lot of other things I've kind of pioneered and kind of and the whole idea is called current astrology / spiritual alignment. So I would give you a $50 reduction. You just have to remind me I told you that, which should make it around like 300 instead of 350. So let me know, and it was a pleasure. Thank you for your patience, and talk soon.